You guys don't know what's going on with New York City and the migrant crisis. It's getting pretty heated. It's getting pretty bad too. And I think citizens are finally fed up. Even communities where it's very heavy Democratic, they are kind of fed up. Even in places like Chicago, you got whole communities where 97% of them voted Democratic are starting to turn to the Republican side. And this truly means that the citizens of many of these sanctuary cities are just fed up. They're so done. Now, one of the biggest things I want to talk about is everyone is okay with the migrants if New York City, for example, just takes in 2,000 to 3,000. But no, they take in almost 100,000 people, and they're treating migrants really well, whereas the original class of people in New York City that are impoverished, that are starving, or sleeping on the streets get no help. So it's very unfair. Like, screw caring for our own citizens. Let's just do something else. Let's just get a bunch of migrants in, and now the city's going broke. So check out this post here. Protest breaks out in Harlem after residents found out that New York City was turning a luxury building in their community into a shelter for migrants. And it's got so bad that the mayor, Eric Adams of New York City, actually paid these guys a visit because it was actually getting kind of bad. This is a completely new building. This is not like some old crusty building, guys. This is actually a very, very nice new building. And what the residents all say is there was a lot of people who can't pay rent in Harlem that are working class individuals that are being pushed out. There's homeless people in Harlem, right? And there's people who need a place to stay. So you have this empty luxury building that could just pretty much accommodate maybe like 100 to 150 people in the Harlem community. But they're like, you know what? Let's break this down and make it into a massive migrant camp. So the citizens are really, really furious. And I think the mayor kind of knows that they're really screwing people up here. And they're really making like the voters who voted them into office very, very mad. Because, you know, a lot of times like when elections comes around, the opponent who is going against the current mayor has a lot of ammo. Just like right now, right? The migrant crisis is being dealt with terribly. And apparently they actually reversed this and kept this building vacant. Honestly, if you're going to be turning a brand new condo building like this into a migrant shelter, at the very least, bare minimum, take care of the first citizens of New York City who are homeless and who are impoverished and who need a place to stay. Look into this. Mayor Adams cancels next round of New York City budget cuts. And he's actually slashing migrant spending. This is something that I was not expecting for any migrant and sanctuary city. Denver, on the other hand, is cutting their city budgets and increasing migrant spending. But I think everyone in New York is just so sick and tired every single day with the migrant crisis that I think the mayor is pretty freaked out himself. And he's like, you know what? Let's just keep the New York City budgets as it is. But let's kind of like dial back on the migrant stuff. Because the city really is going broke. If you look at what the S&P Global Ratings is saying, migrant and asylum seekers pose a massive budget challenge to just 3 cities in the U.S. New York, Chicago, and Denver. Especially Denver. If you guys think New York City is bad, Denver is on like a whole different level because the city only has 700,000 people, but they have almost 50,000 migrants they're trying to take care of, which is about the same as Chicago, who has 2.1 million population, and it's also a financial hub. So Denver is basically going down the drain faster than the other two. But New York City isn't far behind. Chicago isn't far behind either. So a lot of times is these federal governments and state governments are refusing to give these sanctuary cities any more money. They're done, right? And now New York City's budgets are so strained that they're panicking as well. They're like, hold on a second. We have so much spending on the migrant crisis, and we're actually losing money because businesses are leaving as well. Maybe it's time to dial back, and that's exactly what's happening. Mayor Adams is calling off a plan Wednesday to cut city agency budgets by 5% this spring. So he's like, you know what, let's just spare this for a second here. Let's take a step back and look at some of the options. Because if he did slash New York City budgets and increase migrant spending, I think the protests, breakouts like in Harlem, will probably be a lot more common. Look at this. New York City migrants get brand new facility, homeless camp, and tents. This is actually a pretty decent area. Like, I've always wondered, why couldn't like New York City do something like this for their domestic homeless population? But when it comes to migrants, obviously they get the better treatments. Now, one of the biggest things about the whole migrant crisis is the talk of fairness. People talk about how the city can do a lot for people who are in need, but only chose to when they became a sanctuary city. And look at this. A lot of debit cards are being filled for migrants, $10,000 refillable debit cards, and also prepaid debit cards for most migrants, alongside with unlimited hotel stays, basically 3 hot meals a day. And it seems like pretty awesome overall. And some of these hotels are in like Midtown, like very good locations. Let's see what happens here. Okay, the city's going broke. And now there's even a trucker boycott. Not sure how New York City is going to handle this. But nevertheless, don't look down on the money aspect side of it. You know, migrants, they are putting a huge strain on some of America's biggest cities and their budgets.